Welcome to Ancient Britain Myths, where history and legend intertwine. Tonight, we journey through the mists of time to meet the legendary heroes who have shaped the mythic past of Britain. From the noble halls of Camelot to the depths of Sherwood Forest, these are the tales of kings, outlaws, warriors, and queens, whose names still echo across the ages. As the fire crackles and the shadows grow long, let these ancient stories transport you to a world where the lines between history and legend blur. A world where bravery and destiny meet. So sit back, relax, and let the warmth of the fire and the power of these legendary heroes guide you into the heart of Britain's mythical past. At the heart of Britain's mythic history stands one of the most enduring figures of all, King Arthur. Known as the once and future king, Arthur's legend is woven deep into the fabric of Britain's past. His court at Camelot, the shining beacon of justice, chivalry, and honour, was a place where noble knights gathered, united in their quest for truth and righteousness. Surrounded by his knights of the Round Table, Arthur ruled with a sword in hand and wisdom in his heart. His blade, Excalibur, was no ordinary weapon. It was a symbol of his divine right to rule, gifted to him by the Lady of the Lake, forged not by man, but by magic. Excalibur's gleaming edge cut through the darkness of an age marked by war and uncertainty. But Arthur's legacy is not merely one of conquest and power, it is one of destiny, of a higher calling. The quest for the Holy Grail, the symbol of purity and divine grace, represents the eternal struggle between good and evil, between the earthly and the spiritual. Arthur's knights, among them Lancelot, Gawain and Percival, faced great trials on their path to the Grail. Trials that tested their loyalty, their courage, and their honour. Yet it was not only the physical battles that challenged them, but the battles within. For even the greatest of men are not immune to temptation and betrayal. In the end, Arthur's court would fall, torn apart by the very forces it sought to overcome. But the legend of King Arthur remains, a beacon of hope, a promise that one day he will return when Britain needs him most. And so, the story of Arthur and his knights endures, carried by the winds of Avalon, waiting for the time when the king will rise again. As the legend of King Arthur fades into the mists of Camelot, we turn now to the deep, shadowy forests of Sherwood, where another hero's name has become legend. A man whose cause was not born of destiny, but of defiance. His name, Robin Hood, the outlaw hero, the man who stole from the rich to give to the poor, a symbol of justice and rebellion. In a time of tyranny and oppression, Robin Hood rose against the ruling powers, defying the cruelty of the Sheriff of Nottingham and the corrupt nobles who exploited the people. With his band of merry men by his side, Little John, Friar Tuck, Maid Marian, Robin Hood became the champion of the common folk. From the shadows of Sherwood Forest, Robin Hood waged a guerrilla war against injustice. With his legendary skill with a bow, he struck fear into the hearts of the rich and powerful, while offering hope to the downtrodden. His exploits, his cunning raids, his bold rescues became the stuff of legend. But more than the deeds themselves, it was his cause, his unwavering fight for the oppressed, that etched his name into the pages of history. Yet Robin Hood was not merely a thief or a rebel. His legend, like Arthur's, is a story of courage, of standing against the odds. It is the story of a man who saw injustice and chose to act, a man who dared to challenge the powers that ruled his world. Though centuries have passed, the name Robin Hood still resonates, a symbol of hope, of justice, of the eternal fight against tyranny. As the flames flicker and the shadows of Sherwood creep ever closer, we remember the outlaw who defied the law and became a legend. From the rebellious forests of Sherwood, we journey now to a land far older than the age of kings and outlaws, to a time of epic battles, where monsters lurked in the shadows and only the bravest of warriors stood against the darkness. In the ancient, rugged lands of the Geats, one warrior's name has endured through the ages, a name spoken in hushed tones of reverence: Beowulf. Beowulf, the mightiest of warriors, whose strength was unmatched and whose courage knew no bounds. His tale, recounted in one of the oldest surviving poems of the Anglo-Saxon world, is a saga of valour, loyalty and sacrifice. Beowulf's journey begins with a call for help. A kingdom plagued by a nightmarish creature, Grendel, who terrorised the great hall of King Hrothgar, leaving death and destruction in his wake. In the dead of night, Beowulf answered the call, sailing across the treacherous seas to confront this fearsome beast. Armed with nothing but his raw strength, Beowulf battled Grendel in a fierce struggle, tearing the creature's arm from its body and sending it fleeing back to the shadows. But the victory was short-lived, for the terror was not yet over. Grendel's mother, a creature even more fearsome, rose from the dark depths, seeking vengeance. Once again, Beowulf plunged into the heart of danger, descending into the depths of her underwater lair, to face her in a battle that would test his strength, his will, and his very soul. Beowulf's victories over these creatures became the stuff of legend, but his tale does not end there. For many years later, as a king himself, Beowulf faced one final challenge, a monstrous dragon whose fiery wrath threatened to consume his kingdom. With age upon him, Beowulf fought valiantly, slaying the beast in a final act of heroism, but at a great cost. Though he met his end in the dragon's flames, Beowulf's name lives on, a symbol of a warrior's spirit, a legend of unmatched bravery and sacrifice. His story, passed down through the generations, stands as one of the oldest and most enduring tales in British and Anglo-Saxon mythology. As we leave behind the ancient halls where Beowulf once stood, the flicker of the fire reminds us of his final stand, a hero who fought not for glory, but for honour. From the halls of the Geats and the epic battles against monsters, we move now to the fierce and fiery figure of Boudica, the warrior queen of the Iceni, who stood not against beasts, but against the might of the Roman Empire itself. In the year AD 60, Britain was under the iron grip of Rome. The legions of the Roman Empire marched across the land, subduing tribes, enslaving the people, and crushing all who dared to resist. But in the eastern reaches of the Isle, in the lands of the Iceni tribe, the Romans found an enemy they could not easily defeat. When her husband, the king of the Iceni, passed away, the Romans seized their opportunity. They took Boudica's lands, her wealth, and humiliated her and her daughters in a brutal display of power. But the Romans had misjudged their foe, for in the heart of Boudica burned a fire that would ignite the fury of the Iceni people and all those who had suffered under Roman rule. Rising to the challenge, Boudica led a rebellion, a revolt that would shake the foundations of Roman Britain. With her fierce resolve and the loyalty of her people, she marched upon the cities of Camulodunum, Londinium, and Verulamium, the heart of Roman control, and burned them to the ground. Her warriors, fueled by the desire for vengeance, unleashed their fury upon the invaders, striking terror into the hearts of the Roman legions. For a moment, it seemed that Boudica might succeed in freeing Britain from the yoke of Roman rule. She stood defiant, tall and proud, her chariot thundering through the ranks of her enemies, a warrior queen who would not bow to any empire. But even as she raged against the Roman forces, the might of the empire could not be fully undone. The final battle, the clash between Boudica's forces and the Romans, saw her army defeated. Yet in defeat, Boudica became something more. She became a symbol of resistance, of courage, of the unyielding will of a people determined to fight for their freedom. Her story, though steeped in tragedy, is one of the most enduring in British history. Boudica's spirit lives on, a beacon of defiance against oppression, and a reminder that even in the darkest of times, a single voice can rise up and inspire a nation. As the flames of her rebellion flicker in the distance, we remember the warrior queen, whose courage and strength shook an empire. From the fires of rebellion in Roman Britain, we turn now to a different kind of hero, a knight whose story is woven into the very fabric of Arthurian legend, a figure of diversity, bravery, and unrequited love in a world of legend, Sir Palamedes, the Saracen Knight of the Round Table. In a time when the stories of King Arthur's court were filled with noble knights and grand quests, Sir Palamedes stood out. Of Middle Eastern origin, Palamedes' place among the Knights of the Round Table tells a tale of inclusion, of a world where heroism and honour transcended borders and culture. Sir Palamedes was a man of great bravery, but his life was marked by unrequited love. His heart belonged to the beautiful Isolde, but her affections were held by another knight, Sir Tristan. Despite this, Palamedes remained steadfast and true to his duties, for he believed that a knight's honour must rise above personal desires. One of Palamedes' most famous quests was the pursuit of the elusive questing beast, a creature that was said to be impossible to catch, as fleeting and mysterious as the dreams that fuel the Arthurian legends themselves. But Palamedes' quest was not just for the beast. It was for redemption, for proving his worth, his place among the great knights of Camelot. Though he may not have been a king like Arthur or as celebrated as Lancelot, Palamedes earned his place among the Knights of the Round Table through his courage, his humility, and his unwavering sense of justice. His tale, often overshadowed by others, reminds us that the legends of Britain are not just the tales of kings and conquerors, but of all those who fight for honour, love, and peace. Through Sir Palamedes, we see the spirit of the Arthurian court, a court that brought together men of different lands, united in their quest for something greater than themselves. His bravery, his strength, and his loyalty to his fellow knights were a beacon of hope, even in the darkest of times. As the fire flickers once more, we remember Sir Palamedes, the knight whose quest was not for fame, but for the honour of the Round Table. From the halls of Camelot and the noble quests of its knights, we journey now to the very beginning, to the dawn of Britain itself. Long before the knights and kings of Arthur's age, there was a hero who is said to have laid the very foundations of this land. His name was Brutus of Troy, the founding father of Britain. According to the ancient myths, Brutus was a descendant of the great Trojan hero Aeneas, who fled the burning ruins of Troy after its fall. Like his ancestors, Brutus was destined for adventure and for greatness. After years of wandering, he was guided by prophecy to a distant island, a land rich with promise, yet untamed, unclaimed by any king. That island was Britain. Arriving on the shores of this wild and uncharted land, Brutus and his people faced untold dangers. It was a land of dense forests, of unknown creatures, and of ancient mysteries, but Brutus, undeterred by the challenges before him, saw in this island a future, a place where his people could thrive, a place they could call home. Legend tells us that Brutus founded the city of New Troy, which would one day become the great city of London. From the ashes of the fallen city of Troy, a new civilization was born, and Britain began to rise from the mists of myth and into the pages of history. Though the tale of Brutus is shrouded in myth, his story has endured for centuries, carried through the ages as a symbolic origin for Britain, a link between the ancient world and the rise of a new nation. His journey was one of adventure, conquest, and the founding of a legacy that would last for generations. Brutus's story, though steeped in legend, reminds us of the enduring nature of heroism, of the power of one leader to inspire a people, to build a nation from nothing but hope and determination. As we close the final chapter of this tale, we remember Brutus of Troy, the founding father of Britain, whose name, like the heroes who came after him, will forever echo in the history of this land. From the legendary halls of Camelot to the forests of Sherwood, to the ancient lands where Beowulf fought and the fields where Boudica rebelled, and to the shores where Brutus first set foot, we have travelled through the heart of Britain's mythical past. These heroes, King Arthur, Robin Hood, Beowulf, Boudica, Sir Palamedes and Brutus, are more than just legends. They are the symbols of bravery, justice, and the undying spirit of this land. So, as the fire fades and the shadows grow long, we remember the stories that shaped this nation, the legends that will continue to inspire for generations to come. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the legendary heroes of Britain. If these stories have stirred your imagination, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to join us for more myths, legends, and tales from Britain's rich past. Until next time, may the fire of these stories continue to burn bright, guiding you through the legends that live on in the heart of Britain.